Picture this, all right. The year is 1950. A cold, unforgiving rain is just lashing against the iron pillars of Kharagpur railway station in West Bengal, India. A thick, almost suffocating fog has rolled in, literally swallowing the tracks whole. The shadows are long, the air is heavy, and the silence is only broken by the distant, lonely drip of water. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, I'm going to take you through one of the most chilling, documented legends of the railway. We're breaking down the terrifying account of a young man who stepped out of our world and into an absolute cinematic nightmare.
The clock ticks heavily on the wall. 11:45 p.m. The control room. We follow a young, newly hired railway worker named Arun. He's just finished a grueling, solitary shift. The station is practically deserted, bathed in the dim, flickering light of a few solitary bulbs. As Arun gets ready to leave, he spots something kinda out of place in the control room. It's an old, dust-covered file. When he asks the elderly station master about it, the old man's face instantly drains of all color. Looking around in sheer panic, the pale-faced station master leans in close, his voice trembling as he whispers, "Never open that file."
Okay, let's dive into this. Arun, driven by the kind of intense curiosity that really only belongs to the young and unaware, completely ignores the warning. He looks down at the forbidden file. Staring back at him, written aggressively across the cover in what looks exactly like dried dark red ink, is a singular, chilling command. Platform 8, keep closed after midnight. It's definitely not a suggestion, it's a desperate plea. Arun slowly opens the file. Inside, there are no official documents, no logs, just a single old, faded train ticket and a hastily scribbled handwritten note. The note reads, "Never board the 11:50 p.m. last local train." Arun reads the words, feeling a sudden, icy chill creep right up his spine. He glances up at the station clock. The minute hand clicks into place. It is exactly 11:50 p.m. And in that exact second, every single light in Kharagpur station violently goes out. Total darkness. The impossible local train. Out there in the pitch-black night, a sound cuts right through the heavy rain. A distant morning train whistle echoes deeply through the thick fog. But here is the terrifying reality that Arun knows all too well as an employee. There wasn't a single train scheduled at that hour. The tracks were supposed to be completely dead. And this brilliantly illustrates the nightmarish state of what rolls in next. Slowly, silently, rolling onto Platform 8 is a massive, decaying locomotive. A literal ghost from another era. Its windows are entirely shattered, leaving jagged teeth of glass. Its heavy metal body is consumed by deep red rust, looking like dried blood in the pale moonlight. And then, without a single conductor or passenger touching them, the heavy steel doors slowly creak open, seemingly inviting him inside. Arun, desperately trying to rationalize the impossible, assumes it just has to be some unlisted special maintenance service. So he takes a deep breath and steps across the threshold. The doors slam shut behind him. The interior of the cabin is dim, lit only by a sickly, flickering glow, and he isn't alone. Spread throughout the rusted carriage are nearly 20 passengers, but they are entirely motionless. Not a single chest rises to breathe. Every single one of them is dressed in stark, faded white garments, and every single one of them sits in absolute, suffocating silence, their heads bowed low, their faces completely hidden in the shadows. The train begins to move, gliding forward with an unnatural smoothness. The silence stretches out, pulling Arun's nerves totally taut. Suddenly, a voice breaks the quiet, a slow, gravelly sound coming from an elderly passenger sitting directly across from him. Without even raising his head, the old man speaks. "Son, the next station isn't meant for you." Arun freezes in sheer terror. His heart is just hammering against his ribs. He barely manages to choke out the words. "What do you mean?" The carriage goes dead silent again. The old man's head begins to tilt upward, the movement jerky and totally unnatural. As the dim light finally catches his face, Arun's blood runs ice cold. The old man's face is hollow, devoid of life. But it's his eyes that paralyze Arun. There are no whites, no irises, just endless, empty, completely black void staring right through him. As Arun backs away in horror, the train suddenly and violently lurches, picking up terrifying speed and hurtling deep into the mist. Passengers of the damned. The train is moving impossibly fast now. Outside the shattered windows, the familiar landscape of West Bengal has completely vanished. Arun looks out into the swirling fog and watches in absolute horror as the train blows past horrifying, desolate platforms. Forgotten Junction, Silent God, Shadow Town. Now, none of these exist on any earthly map, yet at every single impossible stop, the doors slide open, and dark, featureless, shadowy figures silently glide onto the train. The carriage is filling up fast, but in all this time, at all these stops, not a single passenger ever gets off. Suddenly, the temperature drops sharply. A heavy, rhythmic footstep echoes down the aisle. The ticket inspector has arrived, but he isn't human. He is this towering figure in a tattered uniform, and where his face should be, there is only a thick, swirling vortex of black smoke. He extends a long, pale hand. "Ticket, please," a voice echoes out from the smoke. Arun, operating purely on basic survival instinct, reaches into his pocket and pulls out the only thing he has, that old, faded ticket he found inside the forbidden file. He hands it over, his hands violently shaking. The inspector takes the ticket. The smoke swirling around his face parts just enough to reveal a wide, unnatural, totally sinister smile. He leans in close to Arun, the air around him smelling heavily of ash and decay, and whispers with a quiet, terrifying intensity, "Your destination, Deathpur." The very second those words leave his mouth, the deafening roar of the train engine cuts out entirely, and the train comes to a creeping, agonizing halt at a deserted station. Destination Deathpur. So, the crucial point is, Arun steps out of the carriage and onto a gloomy, decaying platform bathed in a horrific, unnatural twilight. He is completely surrounded. As his boots touch the cold stone, hundreds of tall, dark, shadow figures standing on the platform, slowly, in perfect unison, turn their attention entirely toward him. The air vibrates as they speak, not with individual voices, but with one chilling, collective whisper that echoes from everywhere at once. A new passenger has arrived. Out from the sea of shadows, the old man with the black eyes steps forward. He looks at Arun with this tragic sadness. "I was the last station master here," he explains. He then reveals the horrifying truth. Deathpur is a purgatory. Decades ago, a catastrophic railway accident violently ended the lives of everyone here. Since that awful night, this rusted ghost train has been trapped in a loop, endlessly carrying these lost, suffering souls through a misty void between worlds. They are all dead. Everyone present, killed many years ago. Everyone except Arun. Escape before sunrise. Arun realizes with a sickening drop in his stomach that he is the only living flesh and blood in this dimension. And you can tell the shadows are beginning to realize it too. This just became a race for survival. The old station master grabs Arun by the shoulder. His grip is like pure ice. "You're still alive," he says urgently, pointing back toward the idling locomotive. "If you can board it again before the final whistle at sunrise, you'll return to your world." But before Arun can even process the instruction, a massive, deafening crack splits the air. The very ground beneath his feet begins to violently shake. The shadows scream. So could Arun actually outrun these lost souls before the final whistle? The sun is threatening to break the horizon, and the final whistle begins to blow. It's this shrill, piercing scream of escaping steam. The sea of shadowy figures suddenly lunges toward Arun, hands outstretched, completely hungry for the warmth of the living. Arun turns and sprints. He runs with a desperate, animalistic terror, his lungs burning, giving it absolutely everything he has as the horrific faces of the damned snap right at his heels. The train is already moving. It's picking up speed. The shadows are swarming over the platform, their claws grazing Arun's jacket. Behind him, thousands of distorted voices merge into one terrifying, deafening roar. "Stay with us." Arun leaps through the air, stretching his hand out into the void, grabs the rusted iron handle of the open door and pulls himself violently aboard at the very last second. The lingering legend. The exact moment Arun's body hits the floor of the carriage, the dark world of Deathpur completely shatters. A blinding, searing white light fills his entire vision, consuming the train, the shadows, and the sound of the screaming whistle. Then, Arun slowly opens his eyes. The fog is gone. The gentle golden light of morning is washing over him. He is lying on the hard concrete of Platform 8, right back at Kharagpur Station. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens next. The nightmare is over, but as Arun pushes himself up, he feels something crumpled in his palm.
He opens his hand and looks down. It's the old, faded ticket from the control room file, but the original text has vanished, impossibly. The ink has completely reorganized itself. He stares down at his trembling hand. Written on the ticket, in that exact same terrifying red ink, is a new message from the ghost world. A dark promise. We'll meet again, very soon. Arun survived the night, but, the story didn't end there. The source material tells us that this isn't just a story from 1950. It became a permanent, lingering scar on the history of the railway. Even today, decades later, railway workers and late-night travelers at Kharagpur whispered the exact same warning. They say that when the rain falls hard and the fog rolls in thick over Platform 8 after midnight, you can still hear it. The distant, lonely sound of an old steam ghost train whistle, echoing from tracks that should be completely empty. They say anyone who hears that whistle never, ever forgets the sound. It embeds itself in your mind, a haunting reminder that the 1150 local is still out there, searching the fog for new passengers to take on a one-way trip to Deathpur. So if you ever find yourself alone on a foggy platform in the dead of night, you really have to ask yourself, will you be the next passenger to hear the whistle you can never forget? Keep your ears sharp, keep your eyes open, and never board a train that isn't on the schedule. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.